Did you start?
Yeah, I just started recording, so
Cool.
I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce Garret.
Awesome. So yeah, I am super excited to introduce one of my great friends, Garret. We have known each other since way back when freshman year at University of Miami. And he is one of my closest and most dearest friends because he is so thoughtful and has turned that into an awesome career as a money coach. After doing a lot of amazing things that I can't even begin to name that brought him like all over the country. He landed a corporate job in New York and fairly quickly fell out of love with the corporate world and made the leap to join my husband's company a while back, where he discovered being his own boss was kind of cool. So he kept exploring his passions and realized his love of helping people, personal finance could combine to become a money coach and own his own company called Be Awesome Not Broke, because Garret is that cool. So Garret now helps millennials, entrepreneurs, and the coaches and the like take control of their finances so they can live the life they want to live. So I invited Garret here to talk to us, to give us some tips on how to deal with a variable income and transitioning from a full-time job to a full-time coaching gig, because I know that's on a lot of people's vision boards. So I'm going to shut up and let Garret take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the intro, Mandy. I really appreciate it. And have fun tonight being an adult and getting drunk doing semi-childlike things.
No booze.
Well, then why are you there? Either way.
Only one. I already have my one. I'm done.
Well done. I love it. And thank you guys for having me here on the call. I'm really excited. It's always fun to be able to share, and especially with groups of people who are entrepreneurs, want to be, who are on their way there. That is, as Mandy had mentioned, a life that I am currently living and something that I have gone through actually a couple of times, both from transitioning from the corporate world to being my own boss along with her husband, Ben, and then even more so from that company to the one that I now started. So I had a couple examples of working a full-time job and then also doing a side hustle when I first started working with Ben, and then also quitting the job with her husband and jumping off full-time into my own thing. So seeing what the different sides are like in wanting to start your own thing, your own company, or be an entrepreneur, and see the pros and cons of both sides of really jumping off and starting immediately and what that does to your cash flow and everything in that realm, but then also what it's like to work full-time while having the side hustle and just kind of what that does to you mentally. So at the end, Mandy kind of gave me the format, but and that I'll kind of share what I have. And then if you guys at the end have any specific questions, or as I'm going through, you want to raise your hand and unmute and just chime in, feel free to do that. Because I do want to make sure that I'm addressing what each of you might have particular to yourself. So just wanted to open up the floor and let you know that that is more than welcome to have that input from you guys. So as Mandy had mentioned, that I am a money coach, and I teach people how to use their money to live purposeful and awesome lives. And what does that mean? That means I really help people discover how much money they are making, what they're spending, where that money is going, so that they can start changing their habits and spend money on things that are important to them and that make them happy and that are aligned with their purpose. So many people that I know, and many of the clients that I have make a decent amount of money. In the city, it can be anywhere from, I think the lowest is around $60,000 and then all the way up into the mid 100s. So it's a range. But what's really interesting is they all have the same general issues of, I make a decent amount of money, I'm not entirely sure where it's going, I need help putting it towards something, whether that's just feeling better about it, whether that's eventually quitting my job and starting something entrepreneurial, or if it's just, I don't like the job I'm in and I want to quit and take another job, but I don't have enough money to feel secure and comfortable to do that. So it's really working with them to identify what will make them happier and be able to live their purpose, and helping them as a coach down that path. And just making sure, can everyone hear me well enough? Is that all good? Thumbs up? We're all good there? Awesome. Thank you guys. So as Mandy had mentioned, that many of you are entrepreneurs or maybe just starting out or thinking about transitioning. I'm not sure how many of you have the day-to-day job and the side hustle combined or are doing it full time. But as I mentioned, having run my own business and come from it, from both sides of jumping from having a job to starting something new without having any previous experience in it. So what it's like to completely jump off and start something new. And then also the experience of transitioning through keeping a full-time job and doing the side hustle for about 9 months actually, until I built up enough income and felt good enough to make the leap. So know how that transition can affect you from a money standpoint and from an emotional sanity standpoint of having to work pretty much 2 full-time jobs and make that work. So I want to be able to, through this process, share some of my own experiences and thoughts, and also some tips and advice and tools that you guys can use that will hopefully be helpful no matter what stage of this transition process into entrepreneurship that you guys are in. So before I really dive headlong into it, I just want to share with you kind of on a larger view. People want to jump into, okay, how exactly do I do it? The nitty gritty, how much do I need to save, and really dive into the numbers. And I think what I work on and what I think is really important is stepping back and looking on a macro level of purpose. So what do you want to do? Why do you want to do it? And that really helps anchor and inform a lot of the nitty gritty money decisions that you make. So in that kind of larger view, there are 3 things to really keep in mind and that I focus on. And with each of these things, I'll kind of share a story and an example of how that will apply to you guys as entrepreneurs in moving into entrepreneurship. So I call them the 3 pillars. The first is clarity. The second is empowerment. And the third is mindset. Each builds upon the former, and you really can't get to a place where you are spending your money purposefully and living an awesome life without all 3. So I'll go into quickly each of those and why. So clarity really is the foundation of everything. As I mentioned in the beginning, it's knowing how much money is coming in and knowing what is going out and knowing where it is going. That information, that bit about the numbers and getting that clarity, that's what everything else is built on. Because without really knowing what's going on financially, and this is budgeting, that's exactly what it is. And people hear that word and they cringe and they go, I do not want to hear that word. It is important. I relate it to working out. For example, if you say that you want to lose weight or start a nutrition plan, but you never weigh yourself at the beginning, you never weigh yourself throughout, you don't track your calories in, or you don't track your workouts, how many reps, what the weight is, you aren't going to have an idea of where you are, where you're going, and how to adjust throughout the process, right? So in that same sense, with the actual numbers, that clarity is incredibly important in understanding where you're at. In the same vein, clarity is also important in terms of goals, right? You see this, again, the workout analogy, when you understand where you want to get to and why, it really helps you anchor and make that journey more meaningful and more purposeful. So if, for example, you say, you know what, I just want to lose 15 pounds so I look good in a bathing suit. That may get you there, right? And it may get you to that point that you're in the bathing suit. But if it's not tied to any better underlying purpose of, I want to be healthy so that I can do the things that I love to do with people that I care about, like hiking with my kids or being able to run up a flight of stairs and not get winded, right? So really understanding and having clarity on what is important to you in terms of goals, right? It could be running a half marathon and the why, because I want to prove to myself I can, or I want to get in shape so I can, again, do these things with, whether it's a personal goal or with family or the like, that those anchors and that clarity is super important. Um, there's a funny story I have around clarity. There's someone on my newsletter. Her name's Christy. She runs her own farm out in Portland, Oregon. And we were talking about this idea of clarity. And she mentioned that she does a lot of the shopping for her family. And she's like, I go to the store and every time I go, I see these damn chili lime chips that I love. And I never feel like I can get them. They aren't a stretch financially, right? It's not like it's going to be this major spend to put $2 more towards it. She's like, I just don't know whether I can afford that. If I buy those without knowing whether I can or not really afford it, then, what if I buy something else? I just don't know where I'm at. And so these chips signify like what I want, but I don't know whether I can have or not. And later she was like, as I was also driving out of the parking lot at the supermarket, I was driving and saw, I can't remember the exact thing that it was, but something she wanted to get for her sister. And she's like, it was like $50, not going to break the bank. But again, she was like, I don't know if I can afford this, right? Is this the right decision? Is this something that I can fit into my budget, which I don't even know what it is. And it was really interesting for her to say that because she didn't have either financial clarity around the numbers, and B, she didn't know what was important to her. And so she couldn't make an informed decision. So for example, if she had said, I want to spend my money and time on the people that are most important to me, then she would be able to make that decision and say, I would rather spend my money on buying a gift for my sister and not spend it on chips. And then that will inform every other decision that she makes financially, because she could look at it through that lens of what are the most important things to me. So that was just a real life example of clarity. And I think in terms of entrepreneurship, I can go into where that also ties a little bit more in, but that was a really personal one that I've connected with in the past, of wanting little things and thinking that I couldn't have them. And really it was just because I didn't know what was going on, both in terms of money, in terms of the numbers, or in terms of why I actually wanted them. The second thing that I talked about is empowerment. And this actually, I want to transition a bit and turn this towards entrepreneurship that we talked about, and variable income. That was one of the things that Mandy had mentioned. And I just want to get a sense before I really dive into it. How many of you are dealing with variable income right now? Something that, or will be probably in the future with the coach. Okay. Little hands up.
You don't get the same paycheck every week?
Correct.
Or the transitioning into becoming like a full-time coach? Because I do fee for service full-time, but I'm also doing Beachbody. So both of my jobs are not ever the same paychecks. Then
that is the ultimate example of variable income. That was perfect. Thank you so much for sharing, because that is both, I love it, variable income within one single job, right? And then you have multiple going and you never know really what it's going to be paycheck to paycheck. And that is, so how do we get it so that our emotions don't mirror the ups and downs, right? So when you have this great month and you're like, fuck yeah, I'm on top of the world, I'm this, right? How do you make it so that when the inevitable downturn comes, that you then just don't lie on the floor in a ball and be like, I am the worst? I've only done that a couple of times. This is a safe space. I feel like I can admit that. But how do you manage that, right? Part of that is tied back into clarity. And honestly, the most important tip that I can give right here is know your expenses. The way to deal with this is to know how much money you are spending, where it's going, and how much of that is actually like where you want it to be going. So I worked with a coach, and coaches, again, deal with variable income. They have maybe set rates with clients, but the number of clients vary month to month depending on who is starting and who is ending. And for him, not only did he not know what his expenses were, but because of that, he didn't know how much money he actually needed to be making. Right? So if you don't know how much you are actually either A, spending now, or B, you want to be spending in the future, you have really no idea where you're going to be throwing that dart to hit in terms of your earnings goals. So first and foremost, knowing your expenses is crucial, vital. Whatever word was going through my head as you saw me like stop right there, it is the most important thing. How do you actually deal with that in theory, right? So once you get your expenses, right, then you know about how much money you need to cover you for every month. But then how do you deal in the good months, put money away, and deal with it when the money dips? The best tool that I know for this, just to see how many of you use like Mint or something where it automatically tracks what you guys are doing. Awesome. So, and are any of the other rest of you tracking your spending more or less at this point, like Excel, any other kind of tracking system? Got to know. No. There we go. Looks of shame. Okay, that was, I see that right there. So I use Mint is great to be able to get a general idea of what your spending is. Where I think Mint falls short, and I use a program called You Need a Budget, which is what Mandy and her husband Ben use. YNAB is the acronym, YNAB. And what's great about it is it allows you to put aside for each category that you have. So we'll say groceries, rent, cell phone, internet, all these different things. You can put money towards those categories every month, and it will keep track of those month to month. So the way that it works is, if we'll just say for ease of use, your expenses are $4,000 a month and you earn in 1 month $5,000. Okay. So when you put out all of your expenses, it's going to say you have $1,000 left over. And you can take that $1,000 and put it into let's just call it a rainy day or an emergency or a float fund. I think that's the most, again, why you need to know your expenses is when you have that good month, you know how much money you need to put away for the next month and what it's going towards. So when the next month comes around, you still know that you're going to have those $4,000 in expenses, and those in YNAB, which I like, it'll flow over to the next month. You can then take that for, if you earn, let's say $3,000 the next month, right? And you have that dip, you would be $1,000 short, and you can pull that $1,000 right back out from your emergency fund, or your oh shit fund, as I like to call it. And then you can pull that right back out and put it towards the expenses that you know you are going to have. And it's a way of keeping your money safe and away from you. You can do this either with a virtual, like, have any of you heard of the envelope system, or is this dating me with my parents who taught that to me like 20 years ago? Okay. It's the idea that when you have extra money, you put it away physically in an envelope and don't touch it until the next month when you're going to have variable income. So if you get more money above your expenses again the next month, you put more money into that envelope. And then if you need money from that envelope, you take it out. And so that's really what this program does. And let me say the best tangible advice I can say, if you do not get a program and you don't really find that tracking that way is very easy, what I would recommend is just opening a separate bank account, is what a lot of people do. And whenever they have a lot of money over what their expenses are, they simply shoot that money into a bank account and say, I don't touch it. Okay. I know that this is above what my expenses are. I'm going to put it here so I don't touch it. And then when I have a down month, that's what it's meant for. So sometimes it takes more than tracking. It can take just physically moving that money somewhere else, and really helps manage that up and down. Let me make sure I got, and again, I had talked about just one of the benefits of knowing your spending. Again, when you transition full-time, as it already sounds like some of you have with the variable income, getting an idea of how much money you need to be making is really, really important. and this actually transitions into going entrepreneurial. So we talked about variable income, and then the last pillar is mindset. And mindset is a huge one, especially as you're transitioning into becoming your own boss, or if you already are. If you are in any forward-facing client relationship where you are asking people for money, this is huge. Because if you do not have the right mindset personally, if you don't feel that you're comfortable with your personal finances, that often comes through in how you relate to your clients and money. So if you are asking them to put down $250 a month, or if, say, a larger ticket item of $2,000 for a program, if you are not really comfortable with where you're at financially and yourself in the services that you offer, then you can really feel this disconnect of, oh God, who am I to ask for this much money? I don't even have my financial life set. Before I go too deep, is this something that any of you have experienced in like reaching out to clients and having that kind of thing? Or is this not something that comes up for you? Because if it isn't too much, I just want to make sure.
I think it definitely comes up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not too much for you. Okay. With higher, I think it comes up with higher ticket items, the more that you ask for. If it's like for coaches, when they're asking like $5,000 up front or $10,000 up front, it's a big one, but it can happen at any stage of when you're asking for money. If you, let me see, I think the value out, and that is the trick. Whoever wrote, I think the value outweighs the price so much. There we go. I saw that. And that is another part of the mindset, right? It is, you need to believe in the benefit that you are providing for people so that you can get to the standpoint of, I am not selling, but I am helping people by sharing my gift. And I found personally that by becoming more comfortable with my personal finances and having my money house in order, that allowed me to then feel more comfortable when presenting that to others. And part of my money story when I grew up was people who had a lot of money weren't necessarily great people. I would say my dad was a teacher and my mom stayed at home. So I had this story that not that people with money were bad, but that too much money was not a good thing. So in this transition, I don't know if that resonates with any of you, but as you are transitioning and as you are making more money, be aware of these stories as they come up and how your past can come in and influence how you feel in your conversations to clients, how you feel with how many clients you can take on, how you feel with how much money you're comfortable in charging. One of the biggest things is it's not about how much you know necessarily that will affect how much money you can make. It's just how comfortable you feel with the amount of money that you want to make, right? So if you feel comfortable, you're like, I feel comfortable making $60,000 a year, then that's how much money you will make. So that relationship with money and believing that it is not a good or a bad thing, but just that it is a reflection of kind of spiritual energy, which sounds kind of hokey and hippie, but people like trying to see who made the value comment so I could get back in there from Christina, right? It's simply a transfer of value. If people see the value for you and the value that you're providing them, then they will give you that money. So I also want to give you some tangible things that you guys can use and hopefully start putting into practice to bring clarity and some empowerment and potentially even a shift in mindset. So as I had mentioned, clarity stems from knowing the numbers and from knowing your goals and why you have those goals. So I have a budgeting and account sheet that I used for myself for a long time. It has my own spending categories in there. It lists out areas for all of your accounts. So you can put your savings, your checking, your credit cards, your student loans in there. And it's really a great tool just to see a snapshot of where you are right now. So both in terms of all of the money that you have in your checking accounts and savings accounts, and then also on the credit cards or any of the loans. And then as well on that, it has a listing out of all the different categories that you could be spending in. And it has you put those down. It has spaces for the last 2 months. So if you can go through, you can use it to put down line by line. If you go through your credit cards and checking, and you can actually see, okay, what did I think I was spending over the past couple of months? And then you get a chance to see it versus reality of what was I actually spending over the past couple of months. And those two are often very, very different things. Mental accounting and kind of saying, oh, I know where this money is going. It works to a certain degree, but being able to actually see what is going on allows you to then go to that next pillar and be more empowered to be proactive, to start telling your money, okay, if this isn't where I want it to go, where can I put it? So if that is something that would be helpful, you guys have a Facebook group or something where I could then post and you guys could just have direct access to it. Awesome. That would be one thing that I would recommend would be really, really helpful. And if you feel yourself fighting it, or if you feel yourself not wanting to do the exercise, one thing I have learned is that the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. So it's better to know what's going on, because without that clarity, you can't make a proactive change. So I will leave you with that. And if you do need any support around that, please reach out to me and let me know. I would be more than happy to help give any clarification or help walk you guys through that. And then the second piece that I would like to share is a guide that I put together. So I put together, it's called a How to Be Awesome and Not Broke guide. And it really goes through the process that I work with my clients on. And it goes through identifying your goals, again, the clarity standpoint. So what's important to you and why, figuring out the numbers, which is that budgeting sheet, and then seeing how you get from point A to point B being awesome, which is totally corny, and you're welcome. I came up with that late one night and I'm super proud, pat myself on the back. And it walks through like how to put together a plan and how to really get that clarity, turn that clarity into a sense of empowerment, and how that empowerment can help facilitate a shift in your mindset. So I would love to get invited to the Facebook group by whoever that is, and then be able to put those, awesome, and then be able to put those up there and be available for any kinds of questions or support that you guys have, whether it's within those specific materials or as you guys are looking to further the transition that you guys are going through. I want to take the last couple minutes and just communicate that what I love about what I do is I get to help people live their most awesome lives. And that means a couple of really fucking cool things, which is by doing what I do, I help people find more time in their life to volunteer, because they don't have to spend as much time reaching this financial goal and making this much money that they ultimately find out they don't need. Or they get to say, I figured out that I didn't want to be spending my money here, right? It's not telling people that they don't get to spend money. It's just saying, this is where it's going. Is that making you happy? Is this what's important to you? And then people say, no, I would rather spend my money on the people and experiences that I love. Or I would like to actually donate some money because I've been thinking about doing that since Vietnam and I haven't fucking done it, right? So that is what gets me super excited and super jazzed to do what I do. And if there is any way I can support, whether that is working with people directly or simply supporting them as they go through an entrepreneurial journey, and obviously I have a soft spot in my heart because I have done that, reach out and let me know how I can support. And that goes not just financially, but also in the world of being connected to people. Having been in a couple different industries, I have met all different kinds of coaches. I have met all different types of people from different industries. And so if there's any support that you guys can use in being connected to someone, hit me up on LinkedIn, see who I know, or just ask. I love to connect people. So if I can be a resource in that area as well, I would love to be. So with that, if you guys have any specific questions, I'm not sure if this is how the format works, you can say them now. I'm more than happy to stay on for the remaining 7 minutes if any of you need to bounce, and just answer away. And thank you guys again for having me. I really, really appreciate you giving me this space.
Thank you so much. That was awesome. I feel like I'm over here getting, oh my God, I'm echoing. Do you guys hear that, or is it just me? Well, I just want to say thank you, and I feel like I'm over here getting really awkward because I have to admit that this is like one of my biggest struggles. Like I'm just like cringing over here because I know it's horrible. I probably get into fights with my husband about money more than any other thing on the planet, and it's almost led to a divorce on numerous occasions, I'm sure. But I don't know. So it's definitely a struggle for me. I'm really looking forward to seeing your guides, and I sort of have all of the freedom not freedom, but we've agreed on numbers and for the budget, and I'm just not sure I'm really doing a great job at all. So I'm excited to see the breakdown in your sheet, and I know I definitely need some guidance. So this was awesome, and I'm glad that we did this tonight.
You're welcome. And in that space as well, I know some people who focus specifically on married couples, right? Or people in relationships, like His and Her Money, and different resources there that hit me up. And if you want some more support outside of just what I have, I can send that along as well. So sorry, I hope if you guys have questions, I'll let you guys ask questions too, but do you recommend to your people or to your clients that, I guess with that, thanks Brenna for getting on. With the married couples, do you give, I don't know if this is part of what you talk about, but does each person have an account for themselves kind of thing? Or do you touch base about that at all as far as like what money goes to? Because I feel like that's always a big thing that we discuss, is where that freedom is for each other to have our spending money or whatever. It really depends on what the couple wants. If they feel that it gets to the point where they need to, it would be most helpful to keep separate accounts, maybe just for the time being, and operate that way as they are making this transition to be more cognizant of their individual roles in the spending. And then I work with that, right? I think you have to understand the dynamic that currently exists, and then say, if there has been a breakdown in communication and trust, then saying, do we need to kind of separate things for a little bit and get people working on their own? Or does that hard of a break really signify, well, we can't make it work, and that is like the beginning of an end of, their money relationship together? So really it starts with communication and just getting on the same page. And how do each people operate? How does each person operate, right? What is one person's history with money, and how is that influencing how they show up to the relationship, and vice versa, right? So if the two different people have two different total relationships with money, we need to understand how those interact and how those affect the other, so that you can then, even if they're different, right? Opposites attract. That's a great thing, but simply communication. And because money is such a taboo issue, right? It's just helping facilitate that conversation and make sure that whatever you guys agree upon works for both of you based on what your money stories are. Does that help provide?
Yeah, no, definitely. And when you were talking about mindset, actually, I was thinking, and you were speaking about past experiences and how they affect the future in your relationship with money. And that's definitely, our relationships with money are very different. So I'm sure that has a lot to do with the now as well. I don't want to take over. I know we only have 2 minutes. Do you guys have any questions? No.
I think we're looking good.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, Melissa, Brittany, Kelly, and who's still on? Amanda, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you giving me
Thank you so much. That was really awesome. It was really good.
Yeah, and thanks again for inviting me. This was super fun.
And I'll add you to the group too. Bye. Thank you so much. I'll add you to that group. That would be so good. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Of course. Take care, everybody.
Bye.